Welcome back to State Rankings, where we're ranking all 50 states from worst to best based on real data. Last 3 episodes, Louisiana at number 50, corruption, Mississippi at 49, generational poverty, West Virginia at number 48, corporate exploitation and abandonment. Today, Virginia, rank number 47. One spot up from West Virginia, still near the bottom. Virginia scores 18.4 out of 100. That's an F, a failing grade. But Virginia's story is completely different from the 3 states we just covered. Virginia isn't failing because of corruption like Louisiana. It's not trapped in generational poverty like Mississippi. And it wasn't exploited and abandoned by corporations like West Virginia. Virginia is failing because it's 2 completely different states pretending to be one. Northern Virginia, the wealthy D.C. suburbs around Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun County, is one of the richest regions in the entire country. High incomes, excellent schools, booming economy, pristine infrastructure. Rural Virginia, the Appalachian Mountains, the tobacco country, the coal regions, is poor, forgotten, and falling further behind every year. If you averaged the 2 together, you get number 47, a state that's simultaneously wealthy and poor, success and failing, invested in and abandoned. This is the tale of 2 Virginias. Let's break it down. Let's start with Northern Virginia, or Nova as locals call it. Northern Virginia is rich, genuinely wealthy. Loudoun County, Virginia has the highest median household income in America, $147,111. The highest in the entire country. Fairfax County isn't far behind. Arlington County, also incredibly wealthy. How did Northern Virginia get so rich? Washington, D.C. Northern Virginia is where federal government workers and government contractors live. The entire economy runs on federal contracts, defense spending, and tech companies serving the government. Amazon HQ2, Northern Virginia. Major tech hubs, Northern Virginia. Consulting firms billing the government $500 an hour, Northern Virginia. The schools in Northern Virginia are excellent. The infrastructure is pristine. The median home price, over $600,000. If Northern Virginia was its own state, it would rank in the top 15 wealthiest states in America, maybe higher. This is genuinely one of the most economically successful regions in the country. But here's the thing. Northern Virginia is about 30% of Virginia's population. The other 70%, very different story. Now let's talk about the other Virginia, rural Virginia. Southwest Virginia, the Appalachian coal regions, looks almost identical to West Virginia. Poverty, opioid crisis, collapsed coal economy, brain drain. Southside Virginia, the old tobacco country, has been in economic decline since tobacco farming collapsed. Low incomes, limited opportunities, population exodus. Rural Virginia has high poverty rates, low median incomes, struggling schools, healthcare deserts, crumbling infrastructure. While Loudoun County has a median household income of $147,000, rural Virginia counties have median incomes around $35,000 to $45,000. That's a $100,000 plus income gap within the same state. The opioid crisis hits rural Virginia just like it hit West Virginia. High overdose rates, limited treatment resources, families destroyed, Rural hospitals are closing because they can't afford to stay open in poor areas. If you live in rural Virginia and have a medical emergency, good luck getting to a hospital quickly. And here's the brutal political reality. Northern Virginia has the votes. Nova has about 30% of the population, but that 30% controls state politics because they actually show up to vote and they have the money to influence policy. Rural Virginia, politically powerless, economically forgotten, culturally dismissed as backwards. The state government invests heavily in Northern Virginia, roads, transit, schools, economic development, because that's where the tax revenue comes from and that's where the political power is. Rural Virginia gets the leftovers, if anything. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is just math. Politicians invest where the votes and money are. Rural Virginia has neither. So rural Virginia continues to decline while Northern Virginia thrives, and the gap gets wider every year. Let's talk about the inequality gap in Virginia because it's absolutely staggering. Virginia has some of the highest income inequality in America. The richest counties and the poorest counties in Virginia aren't just different, they're in completely different economic universes. Loudoun County median income, $147,000. Buchanan County, coal country, median income around $35,000. That's more than a $100,000 gap in the same state. Someone living in Arlington makes 4 times what someone in rural Appalachia makes. They live an hour and a half apart. The schools in Fairfax County are ranked among the best in the nation. The schools in rural Virginia struggle to keep teachers and maintain facilities. The roads in Northern Virginia are well maintained, modern, constantly improved. The roads in rural Virginia are crumbling and dangerous. Northern Virginia has cutting-edge healthcare facilities. Rural Virginia is losing hospitals. And here's the thing that makes this particularly frustrating. Virginia knows this. The state government is fully aware of the inequality. They just don't care enough to fix it, because fixing rural Virginia would require massive investment, and that investment would have to come from tax revenue generated primarily in Northern Virginia. And Northern Virginia voters don't want their taxes going to places they never visit and don't think about. So the inequality continues, the gap widens, rural Virginia falls further behind, Northern Virginia prospers. And Virginia as a whole ranks number 47 because you can't ignore 70% of your state and expect good outcomes. Virginia's economy is dominated by one thing: the federal government. Federal workers, government contractors, defense contractors, tech companies serving the government, consulting firms billing federal agencies. Northern Virginia's entire economy runs on Washington, D.C., and that economy is booming. High salaries, stable government jobs, massive federal contracts. But that economy is concentrated in one small region. Rural Virginia's economy, not booming at all. Tobacco farming collapsed decades ago. Coal mining is dying just like in West Virginia. Manufacturing left for cheaper states and other countries. Rural Virginia has limited job opportunities, minimal economic growth, and a shrinking population as young people leave for Northern Virginia or other states. The median household income in Virginia overall is $80,268. That ranks 11th nationally. Pretty good, right? But that number is heavily skewed by Northern Virginia's wealth. If you removed Nova from the equation, Virginia's median income would be near the bottom third. Virginia's economy is strong, but only if you live in Northern Virginia. Education in Virginia shows the same split. Northern Virginia schools are excellent. Fairfax County Public Schools, Loudoun County Public Schools, Arlington Public Schools, these are consistently ranked among the best school systems in America. High graduation rates, high test scores, well funded, excellent teachers who are paid relatively well. But rural Virginia schools, struggling, underfunded, teacher shortages, aging facilities. Virginia's overall education ranking is middling, around 25th to 30th nationally. Not terrible, not great, but that average masks huge disparities. Nova schools perform at top 10 state levels. Rural Virginia schools perform closer to the bottom third levels. About 40% of Virginia adults have a bachelor's degree, well above the national average of 35%. That's actually impressive. But again, that number is driven by Northern Virginia's highly educated workforce. In rural Virginia, bachelor's degree attainment is significantly lower. Virginia's education system works great if you live near D.C. If you live in rural Appalachia, not so much. Healthcare in Virginia, same story. Completely different depending on where you live. Northern Virginia has excellent healthcare, world-class hospitals, abundant specialists, quick access to emergency care. Rural Virginia, healthcare deserts, hospital closures, limited access to specialists, long drives to emergency care. Virginia's overall healthcare ranking is middle of the pack, around 20th to 25th nationally. But that average hides the reality that rural Virginians face the same healthcare access problems as rural West Virginians, while Nova residents have healthcare access rivaling the best states. If you live in Fairfax County and have a medical emergency, you're 5 minutes from excellent care. If you live in rural Southwest Virginia, you might be an hour from the nearest hospital. Okay, as usual, fair is fair. What does Virginia actually have going for it? History. Virginia is the history state. Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, Mount Vernon, Monticello, Civil War battlefields everywhere. The state is absolutely loaded with American history. If you love history, Virginia is incredible. Natural beauty. Shenandoah National Park is gorgeous. The Blue Ridge Mountains are stunning. Virginia has beautiful landscapes, excellent hiking, and genuine natural beauty. Northern Virginia opportunities. If you work in government, tech, consulting, or defense, Northern Virginia offers incredible career opportunities, high salaries, stable jobs, excellent schools for your kids. The quality of life in Northern Virginia is genuinely very high if you can afford it. Richmond, Virginia's capital city. Richmond is actually pretty great. Good food scene, rich history, affordable compared to Nova, growing arts and culture. Richmond punches above its weight. Virginia Beach is nice. The wine country is pleasant. There's genuine appeal here if you're in the right places. The problem isn't that Virginia has nothing good. The problem is that the good stuff is concentrated in specific areas while huge swaths of the state are left behind. Here's what's heartbreaking about Virginia. Virginia has the resources to help rural Virginia. The state generates massive tax revenue from wealthy Northern Virginia. The money exists to invest in struggling rural areas. But the political will doesn't exist because Northern Virginia voters don't care about rural Virginia. They never see it, never think about it, and don't want their taxes going to it. And rural Virginia doesn't have enough political power to force investment because they're outvoted by Nova. So the inequality continues. Every year the gap gets wider. Every year more young people leave rural Virginia for Northern Virginia or other states. Every year, rural Virginia falls further behind. Virginia could fix this. They have the money, they have the resources, they just don't have the political will. Northern Virginia is thriving, rural Virginia is dying, and the state government has chosen which one matters more. That's not conspiracy theory. That's just the reality of where investment goes and where it doesn't. Virginia's story is one of inequality and abandonment, but abandonment by their own state, not by outside corporations. Virginia is two states. Northern Virginia, wealthy, successful, thriving, well invested. Rural Virginia, poor, struggling, abandoned, forgotten. If Northern Virginia was its own state, it would rank in the top 15 to 20 nationally, maybe higher. If rural Virginia was its own state, it would rank in the bottom 15, easily. Average them together and you get number 47. Virginia has the resources to be a great state for everyone, but they've chosen to invest in Northern Virginia and let rural Virginia decline. That's a policy choice, an investment choice, a political choice. And the result is massive inequality, a dying rural economy, and a state that ranks number 47 because you can't ignore 70% of your population and expect good outcomes. Northern Virginia doesn't need help. They're doing great. Rural Virginia desperately needs help. They're not getting it. Until Virginia decides that all Virginians matter, not just the wealthy ones funding campaigns and paying the most taxes, the inequality will continue. The people of rural Virginia deserve better than being forgotten by their own state government. They're not getting it. So who should move to Virginia? Government workers and contractors. If you work for the federal government or want government contract work, Northern Virginia is the place to be. High salaries, stable work, excellent opportunities. Tech workers. Northern Virginia has a booming tech scene, especially around Amazon HQ2. If you're in tech and want to be near DC, this is great. History lovers. If American history is your thing, Virginia is unmatched. You could spend years exploring historical sites. Northern Virginia families. If you can afford Northern Virginia housing prices, $600,000 plus, the schools are excellent and the quality of life is very high. Who should not move there? Anyone looking at rural Virginia expecting affordability and opportunity. Rural Virginia is affordable, but there are no jobs. It's West Virginia with a Virginia address. Anyone expecting equality across the state? If you're not in Nova, Richmond, or Virginia Beach, you're in forgotten territory. Young people without government tech defense connections. Unless you're going into these industries, Virginia's opportunities are limited outside Nova. Virginia, ranked number 47 out of 50. Overall score, 18.4 out of 100. One step above West Virginia, still failing overall. The bottom line, Virginia is two states pretending to be one. Northern Virginia thrives while rural Virginia dies. Massive inequality, political abandonment of rural areas. A state with the resources to help everyone but chooses to help the wealthy. Virginia could be great. Instead, it's number 47. Next episode, Tennessee, ranked number 46, breaking into the top 45, but barely. Beautiful mountains, Nashville booming, Memphis struggling, and a tax system that punishes the poor. Subscribe so you don't miss it.